Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Louder. Sing louder. Sing again. Again.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class on Zoom. It's from Canto 1, Chapter 19, Text 11, and Text 12. So Text 11 is on now. And without further ado, I'll start the class. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivajikacharya Sto Terasata Sishimari Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitya Lila Pravishna Om Vishnu Pad Paramhamsa Parivajakachaja Astottara Sata Sishimaras Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavini ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Sivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shami Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Mathura Dham ki jai. Navadvip Dham ki jai. Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Jagannath Swami ki jai. Ganga Mai ki jai. Jamuna Mai ki jai. Tulsi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vind ki jai. Nitai Gaur Pamanandi, Hari Hari Bo. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Glory to the Prabhupada. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Peshtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tere Swami Tinamani Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Siddharthani Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tere Tinamani Narayana Namaskricha Narunchevam Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Gudirayat Nashta Prayeswa Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhavatu Tamasloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So we'll start with Canto 1, Chapter 19, Text 11 of Srimad Bhagavatam. I'll chant that 3 times, and anyone feels inclined to do that may do so. Hare Krishna. Anye devasi Anye cha devasi brahmasi varya rajasi varya arunadayascha nanaseya pravaran nanaseya pravaran samitan abhyachaya rajasirasabam vade. Anyecha Dirvashi Brahmasi Varya Rajasi Varya Arunandayascha Nanaseya Pavaran Samitan Abhyacharya Rajashirasa Pampade Anyecha Dirvasi Brahmasi Varya Rajasi Varya Arunadayascha Nanaseya Pavaran Samitan Abhyachar Raja Sirasa Bhavandi. Hare Krishna. Please stand if you so feel inclined.
Anye cha devarshi brahmarshi raja shrivarya arunadasya cha nanarshaya pravaran sametan abhyarchya rajarisharya vavande. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else?
Anne cha devarshi brahmarshi varya rajarshi varya arunadayascha nanarshya pravaran sametan abhyarshya raja shirasa vande. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else?
अन्ये च देवर्षि ब्रह्मर्षिवर्या राजर्षिवर्या अरुणादयश्च नानार्षि प्रवरान् समेताश्नभ्यर्षि राजा शिरसा ववन्दे. हरे कृष्ण.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else? All right, we'll do word for word. Anye, many others. Cha, also. Devarshi, saintly demigods. Brahmashi, saintly brahmanas. Varya, topmost. Rajashi, Varya, topmost saintly kings. Aruna, Adaya, a special rank of Rajarshis. Cha, and Nana, many others. Ashaya, Prava, Ran, chief amongst the dynasties of the sages. Sametan, assembled together. Abhyarchya, by worshipping. Raja, the emperor. Shirasa, bowed his head to the ground. Vavande, welcomed. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. There were also many other saintly demigods, kings, and special royal orders called the Arunadayas, a special rank of Rajarishis, from different dynasties of sages. When they all assembled together to meet the Emperor Pariksit, he received them properly and bowed his head to the ground. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The system of bowing the head to the ground to show respect to superiors is an excellent etiquette which obliges the honored guests deep into the heart. Even the first great offender is excused simply by this process. And Maharaj Pariksit, although honored by all the rishis and kings, welcomed all the big men in that humble etiquette in order to be excused from any offenses. Generally, at the last stage of one's life, this humble method is adopted by every sensible man in order to be excused before departure. In this way, Maharaj Pariksit implored everyone's goodwill for going back home, back to Godhead. Text 12. Sukopaviteshu atateshu bhuya krita pramana swachikishitam yat vigyapayam asa vivikta cheta upasito gre vikrita ani. Word for word. Sukha, happily. Upavishdesu, all sitting down. Ata, thereupon. Teshu, unto them, the visitors. Bhuya, again. Krita pranama, having offered obeisances. Swa, his own. Chikil shitam, decision of fasting. Yat, who. Vigyapayam, Vigyapayam asa, submitted. Viviktate cheta, one whose mind is detached from worldly affairs. Upasita, being present. Agre, before them. Apigrita pani, apigrihita pani, humbly with folded hands. Translation by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. After all the rishis and others had seated themselves comfortably, the king, humbly standing before them with folded hands, told them of his decision to fast until death. Report by Srila Prabhupada. Although the king had already decided to fast until death on the banks of the Ganges, he humbly expressed his decision to elicit the opinions of the great authorities present there. Any important decision, however firmly fixed, should be confirmed by some authority. That makes the matter perfect. This means that the monarchs who ruled the earth in those days were not irresponsible dictators. They scrupulously followed the authoritative decisions of the saints and sages in terms of Vedic injunction. Maharaj Pariksit, as a perfect king, followed the principles by consulting the authorities even up to the last days of his life. Oma Gnati Virandasya Gyana Gyana Shalakaya Chakshu Umbilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Scha. Shri Rupa Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Pitam Tam Sajivam Sadhuitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Pitam Scha. He Krishna Kruna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhi Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanusite Devi Paramami Hari Priye Panchakalpatarubhesya Kripasunibhi Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirveshesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshitarini Namo Mahapadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Guatishe Namaha Ananda Lilamaya Vigrahaya Himavya Divachavashandelaya Tasmi Mahaprema Raspadaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Hare Krishna. So the English translation of text 11 is, there were also many other saintly demigods, kings, and special royal orders called Arunadayas, a special rank of Rajarishis, from different dynasties of sages. When they all assembled together to meet the Emperor Pariksit, he received them properly and bowed his head to the ground. Text 12, English translation. After all the rishis and others had seated themselves comfortably, the king, humbly standing before them with folded hands, told them of his decision to fast until death. Hare Krishna. Jira Prabhupada ki jai. So, I'm going to stop sharing. Okay. Hare Krishna. So, Maharaj Pariksit has left the prescribed duties that he had before, which is that of administration and protection of all the righteous people. He was a very pious king. He was a pure devotee of the Lord. And by the Lord's will, the decision has been made to go back to Godhead. So now he's at the banks of the Ganga. And the sages, high-level devotees of the Lord, had come from different parts of the universe. They have assembled. And in this first text, in text 11, describes so many of them according to who they are: saintly demigods, kings, special royal orders, from people, others from special rank of Rajarishis, kings, pious kings, saintly kings, from different dynasties of sages. They're all there to meet the emperor. And so this large, very wonderful, high-level gathering came for the purpose of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and also seeing the Emperor Pariksit leave in a glorious way. Shukadeva Goswami, who was very, very, very learned in Srimad Bhagavatam, having gotten it from his father, Srila Vyasadeva, was the one that was going to speak. He was elected to speak, actually, by the sages. So Maharaj Pariksit is receiving them very, very nicely, properly, according to etiquette, bowing his head to the ground. Bowing one's head to the ground is still practiced according to Srila Prabhupada's instructions by devotees in ISKCON. They come to a temple, take the shoes off, they knock on the door, and that is telling you if you've not been doing that, you're coming to the Lord's abode, the Lord's house, the temple. When you go into somebody's house, you knock on the door. If they have a doorbell, you ring the doorbell. So in the same way, even though temples don't provide that, you have to knock on the door. If the devotees don't hear it, it doesn't matter. The door is already open, but you knock on the door, and then, because you're knocking on the door to tell the deities you're coming, the Lord that you're coming, then you open the door and you're coming. Then you offer obeisances. You put the head on the floor, kneeling position, and down, finally bowing position. Maharaj Pariksit is showing that this is very important. He's the emperor of the whole world. And when he received them, he bowed his head to the ground. Now, Srila Prabhupada says in the purport that this bowing of the head to the ground shows respect to superiors. And it's also an excellent etiquette. And the person that is respected that way becomes quite obliged deep in the heart. I remember my own situation. This may be a little shocking to some of you, but we all learn from our mistakes. And there was a Srila Prabhupada disciple that took offense to a way I described some situation to him. It was a correct situation, but my description was a little bit boisterous, to put it mildly, at that time, because he didn't know left me or right, was still learning. And so she got offended by how I came across. I didn't insult her or anything. That was not at all. But still, when a devotee is not liking something that you've done, then you take it that it's an aparad. Even though the way you may have expressed it, you say, oh, well, it's okay. But if they don't like it, you should look at it as an aparad on your part. So that's the way I looked at it. And I apologized. I apologized twice. And then in the Rath Yatra in Baltimore, all places, she was there along with another of the GBCs. And I still wanted to express that I was very sorry that she was not happy with the way I came across with the statement that I made, although the statement itself was true. So I offered obeisances right at the Rath Yatra in front of two Matajis. And when I got up, I saw that their hands were stretched out in a blessing, in a way to bless me. So that's my own personal experience of this. The system of bowing a head to the ground to show respect to superiors is an excellent etiquette. This is here Prabhupada saying that. It's an excellent etiquette. And it obliges the person honored that way deep in heart. And so I got blessings from two Prabhupada disciple Matajis just by bowing the head on the ground. So Chip Prabhupada says even a first grade offender, and I had to look at myself, as long as she didn't like how I put the statement, I had to accept that I was an offender. Somebody else may not have taken it differently, but I'm not trying to make any excuses. You don't like it, that means the person who's done it is an offender. So the first grade offender, Sri Prabhupada says, even gets excused simply by this process. And so Maharaj Pariksit, knowing that, honored all the rishis and kings, welcomed all the big men in that order, in the way that he did it, the humble etiquette. Very important, so that he could be excused from any offenses. That's also another important point. Again, an example that I gave by myself, the way I worded things, I didn't think was an offense, but the Mataji took it as an offense. So in the same way, Maharaj Pariksit may have done some things in his kingdom, and it may be seen as offensive. He doesn't know. And therefore, he would do this. And this is one way of humbling oneself, so that if there's any outstanding, for lack of a better word, offenses, then the person would excuse, the one who is offering respects in that way from any of the offenses. And Srila Prabhupada says, generally at the last stage of one's life, this humble method is adopted by every sensible man in order to be excused before leaving the body. And so Maharaj Pariksit did that. And that way, he implored everyone's goodwill. See, this is very important. When you're a leader, and my Guru Maharaj, my teacher Maharaj made this point that we should understand, leaders usually don't get praised when everything is going well, but they get criticized when something goes wrong. And some leaders who start up and say, oh, but why are people doing this to me for all the good things that I'm doing? And he told us, it's the way it comes with the position. That's the way it is. You accept it. It is not right for people to criticize because that's Vaishnava Parad, true enough. But at the same time, you should expect the leaders would do that. I mean, the leaders will face that kind of situation. When everything is going well, the leader is doing things properly, nobody says anything. When something goes wrong, then they jump on the leader. So this is part of leadership. Leadership in Kali Yuga, I must say. So this is the way it is. So Maharaj Pariksit may not have known that he had done something that some people didn't like. It's very difficult these days, even for a very good leader of a country, to have 100% confidence, vote of confidence from all of the people. There will always be somebody who doesn't like us. When I was teaching, this is when Indiana University of Pennsylvania, the chemistry department, there were a few of my students that would come to me and, they needed help with chemistry. So during the office hours time, they would come for help. And some of them, especially in my office, I'm not in front of a classroom, so I can get even personal. And they got personal with me too, told me quite a few things that was going on with other students. And one of them told me that whenever other students criticize me, he's telling me, when students criticize you, I always defend you. Now, that was a nice statement to hear, but he also was telling me that people were criticizing me. And in the meantime, I'm trying to do the best of this job of teaching as I could, but that was what was happening. So that's a leader. It just comes with the territory. It comes with the job. So we have to be aware of this and follow Maharaj Pariksit's example, making sure that everybody is dealt with in a very nice way and the etiquette of humility is shown as best as one can. And if it's certainly possible to bow a head, then please do that to the devotees. Also, sometimes when statements are made, and the leader is talking, and in the end, they will say, if I've offended anybody, it's not intentional. I definitely request your forgiveness. Like that. Again, so that clears the person's reputation, and in front of the Paramatma, in front of the deities, all of that is taken care of. So this is an example showed by Maharaj Pariksit. Now, speaking about doing that, Lord Brahma offered respect regardless of his exalted position. Lord Brahma is the topmost person, Jiva, living entity in the universe. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 9, Text 18, Lord Brahma is speaking. Your Lordship, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, who are indefatigable of time and the enjoyer of all sacrifices. Although I'm situated in an abode which will continue to exist for a duration of time of 2 paradas. And I'll finish that and then I'll explain what paradas are. And although I'm the leader of all the planets in the universe, and although I've undergone many, many, many years of penance for self-realization, still I offer my respects unto you. So Lord Brahma is saying, Krishna is Asamodva. Nobody can be at his level or be above him. And Krishna is now being talked to wonderfully, respectfully by Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma says, even though I am the topmost personality in the universe, and I live for 311 trillion and 40 billion years, which is what 2 paradas are. So 1 parada is half of that amount. 311 trillion years and 40 billion. That's the lifetime. He's the longest living personality in the universe. He's leader, and he's done so many things he's done. Penance for self-realization. But still, he's not putting himself that I am topmost. He says, I offer my respects to you. I offer my respectful obeisances to you. So Brahma is teaching us. Now, in Bhagavatam, same canto, 3rd canto, chapter 25, text 36, there is even Srila Prabhupada explaining that the 3rd-class devotee can be liberated by offering obeisances. 3rd-class devotee is a person that honors the deity in the temple, but as far as relating to other devotees, there's much improvement. There's more room for improvement that needs to be done. So he's not so good in that arena. But even that person can be liberated just by offering obeisances. So Srila Prabhupada is explaining the 3rd-class devotee who is not even advanced in knowledge of the absolute truth, but would simply offer obeisances with great devotion and think of the Lord and seeing the Lord in the temple, and then brings like flowers and fruits to offer to the deities. That person can become liberated. So with the great devotion, devotees should offer respect and paraphernalia to the deity in the temple. Of course, when you grow up from the 3rd class to 2nd class, then you know that everyone has to be offered respect. So the greatest example is the example of Lord Krishna, an example of offering respect given by Lord Krishna himself. And that is in Canto 4, chapter 21, text 38. When the Lord returned to Dwarka, that is, he's gone to Hastinapur, he's gone to Kurukshetra, the war had been fought, it had been finished. Yudhishthira had been made king. Maharaj Kunti had offered his prayers, thanking Krishna for all the things that he had done and how he had saved them, and them meaning herself and her children, the Pandavas. Now, Lord Krishna has returned to Dwarka. And he gets to the gate, blows his conch shell, and people know it's conch shell very, very, very well. Panchajanas, therefore people just come in their numbers, even including the invalid people. They all came to the gate to bring Krishna in. Now, when Krishna finally got into Dwarka, he offered obeisances based on his rank as king, based on his rank as prince, based on his rank as son, because Vasudeva and they were all there. So then he actually offered his respects like that, based on the family relationship and the relationship with the citizens in Dwarka. Now later, Narada Muni came to visit. And Narada Muni came to visit Dwarka, going into the different palaces. So 16,108 palaces have been built for 16,108 queens or wives of Krishna. And Narada was going to each one. And every time he went to one, he saw Krishna was involved in doing something different from the palace that he had been in earlier. Now that may sound normal, but it's not. Same Krishna can expand in so many in millions of ways. First, by his Prakash or Vilas form, where he is sometimes different, like four-handed Vishnu, or sometimes by himself, same but expanded, like the way he does when he's dancing with the gopis. It's all expression of Krishna expanding to the number of gopis is there. Even if there are millions, he expands himself that way. And also with his queens in Dwarka. But each one was doing something different with the family when he came to the house. The Lord offered his respects by bowing at the lotus feet of Narada when Narada entered each temple. Each palace. Also, Sudama Vipra, who's the Lord's friend, he was very poor. His wife urged him to go to Krishna in Dwarka, and he gave him a small satchel of bag of chip rice as gift. Sudama Vipra came to Dwarka, the house, and the Lord personally honored him wonderfully. He washed Sudama Vipra's feet and gave Sudama Vipra a seat on his personal bed. In the same way, also, when he was with Maharaj Yudhishthira, the Pandavas, and Kunti, he would offer his respects to Kunti because Kunti was the aunt at that time, and he offered his respect to Maharaj Yudhishthira as the king. So the Lord's exemplary behavior teaches us, and we should learn from this, how to cultivate Brahminical qualities and how to respect Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. Like that. Now, it's very important because those who've been in Krishna consciousness for a while, others who come new, they watch your behavior. And so it is very important, as it's said in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, text 21, Yat Yat Acharati Streshas, Tat Tat Eve Taro Jana, Sayat Pramanam Kurute Lokastat Anuvartate. And the meaning is, whatever action a great man performs, common men follow. And whatever standards he set by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. Whenever a great man performs something, people look at it. Common men follow it. And whatever standards that he set by example, all the world pursues. So it's very important. Maharaj Pariksit was an emperor, and he bowed his head in respect to those who had come to hear him. Now, in the next verse, translation is that all the rishis and the others who had come, they seated themselves, and when they seated themselves comfortably, the king stood before them, Maharaj Pariksit, humbly and with folded hands, and told them of his decision to fast until death. And the idea of telling them was to reveal to them what was going to happen. They were there to hear Bhagavatam. But Maharaj Pariksit also had been cursed to die in 7 days. And they knew that. Because these were all Trikalagya people. They knew what was past, present, and future. That's why they came in their numbers. Now, the king had decided to fast until death, but he wanted to let them know that this was his decision, so that if it was something that it was good to do, then the gathering of these high-level spiritual people would tell him. And if there was something else to be done different, then they will also tell him. Therefore, he told them of his decision in order to get opinions from the great authorities who were there. Now, clearly, he heard Srimad Bhagavatam from Shukadeva Goswami without drinking, eating, or sleeping for the whole 7 days. That also says then that those who were gathered thought that it was a good idea to fast and to hear without any break. Sometimes we have meetings and then there's an intermission time and people get up and do whatever they got to do and then they come back and then the meeting continues. But in this case, Maharaj Pariksit had decided to go straight through to fast, meaning not do anything else. And so that was agreed upon. So Srila Prabhupada is saying that what we learn from it is that any important decision, however firmly fixed, still should be confirmed by some authority. So it is important to reveal our minds to authorities, those that we trust also, or authorities when they're around, about things that we're doing in order to get their take on it. Those times, the kings were not just irresponsible dictators. Whenever they had a decision to make, they would invite the brahmanas, and then they would tell them about what they're thinking, and the brahmanas will use shastric texts and references to tell the king, this is a good idea, this is not a good idea, and here is the shastra, the scriptural injunction that backs it up. So they were sharing their minds like that with things that they wanted to do. The monarchs, the kings were doing that. Especially since we heard from Bhagavad Gita 321, that what the king or the very important personality does, others would follow. So Maharaj Pariksit, being a perfect king, wanted to make sure that whatever decisions that he made, since people were going to live by it or even follow it, whatever he does, that it was right, and therefore he would consult with others. Very important. In the Nectar of Instruction, the fourth text, Nectar of Instruction, is 11 verses. Verse 4, Dadati pradigrinati guyam akyati prichati bhongte bojayate cheva satpidam priti lakshanam. Now of this, the second line, guhyam akyati prichati, very important. Guhyam, confidential topics. Akyati explains and prichati inquires. So we have to inquire submissively. We have to inquire about things, and we also have to reveal confidential things. Now, in the case of Maharaj Pariksit, you might say it wasn't like confidential because he just told everybody that was there that he had decided to fast. But in one sense, it is because those were people who many others would go to and share confidential things with them because of their level of spiritual, for lack of a better word, prowess or spiritual qualification. But there were so many people there at the time, so that makes it like, openly confidential. He's telling them, I'm going to fast. So this is the text that talks about the 6 expressions of love: giving charity, receiving charity, giving prashadam, receiving prashadam, and then guhyam akyati prichati, revealing one's mind and also revealing one's mind confidentially and also taking confidential responses. It is important for the devotee to have somebody they can go to and share their minds, and that person should be trustworthy. Very, very, very important. When somebody's telling you something, you should never gossip. Go tell somebody else about it. It's not good at all. That breaks the trust. And therefore, we should be careful not to break anybody's trust. The more trustworthy a person is, the more people feel comfortable being around that person. So in the dealings, even in Srila Prabhupada says in the purport of this fourth text, in Nectar of Instruction, he says that sometimes a businessman wishes to contact another businessman. and openly express what he wishes to do, and maybe get some feedback from that. What do? They will arrange a feast, maybe get a hotel, a ballroom, or a place where they can just be by themselves. Sometimes they have more people there, or sometimes maybe the other businessmen's employees feed them nicely, and then they'll have a private talk. A businessman contacting the businessman, and then after the feast, after he's been cared for nicely, then he expresses what he openly wishes to do. Then he inquires from this businessman how he should act. Sometimes even presents get exchanged. Here, Papa explained all of that. So offering respect is very, 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 very important. And if we take that as one important part of our Krishna conscious life, we will go, for lack of better, we will go places spiritually. We'll be able to grow and grow very, very effectively in our Krishna conscious quest. So we have to bear that in mind. Offering respects should never be something that we have to think twice about. And revealing one's mind, we should also have somebody that we can trust, that we can say these things that are on our mind and get feedback from that person, get responses from that person. These two things are quite important to do in spiritual life, and especially the first one of offering respects, as Srila Prabhupada has told us. It would clear any negative thoughts that somebody may have about us when we do that. And then that way we're leaving. The time comes for us to leave, because we all leave this material world. Or we leave the body. We want to leave the material world too, not just leaving the body. And so then all of that is cleaned out. And we don't have any bone to pick with anyone, lack of a better way to put it. Then we go back, or leave the spiritual world, leave this material world, go into the spiritual world with a clear conscience, and we know that we haven't done anything that we didn't apologize for if it was wrong. That's also very, very, very important. And of course, we're chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Will then appeal, make the smooth transition to go back to Godhead. Chira Prabhupada Ki Jai. So thank you, dear devotees, for attending the lecture and listening. And now it's time to unmute yourselves if you have realizations to share, if you have questions to ask, and if you have more things to add to it too. That'll be wonderful. Or take homes too. Yes, dear Krishna Prabhu, I see you raised your hand. Hare Krishna Prabhu, accept on all basis, glory to the power.
Hare Krishna Prabhu Chaitanya Pranam. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much. Lot of points. So one thing is like right in the starting, you mentioned how Maharaj Pariksit was so respectful to the assembled ritual masters, brahmanas, all the devotees there. So that's a very, first of all, I really liked, like you mentioned, how Maharaj Pariksit was confirming his vow before, taking it with the senior devotees or spiritual masters assembled there, because he didn't want to do just out of his mental speculation. So that's a very important point in our sadhana. So I really like that. And also important is how he was checking from the right authority, not just anybody else. So that is another takeaway that I got.
Wonderful.
And yes, Prabhuji.
Please go on.
And my question is about being respectful to the senior devotees or spiritual masters that visit, to our programs. Because last time in January, like we have two spiritual masters who came to Reading. And I saw one person, and he's not a new person to the program. He had no sign of respect to them. Of course, he didn't misbehave, but the reason I'm bringing up is because I got a little disturbed with that. and but he had not shown any sign of respect towards spiritual master, like coming and doing a pranam to them or paying obeisances. So how to deal when we face such situations in the public programs? And he's just not somebody new,
He's not new.
right?
This is somebody who's
I
been
mean, of
coming.
course, he has been coming to the program, but not really. I don't think he's really into it right now, for whatever reasons. But at least the minimum that we expect if somebody comes to the spiritual program, to pay respect to the senior devotees and the spiritual masters. And it's just not once, like maybe out of coincidence it might have happened. I observed continuously 2 times.
That's a very
Because
important
that's,
question.
yeah,
How? Yeah. So this person you've noticed is not offering even the basic things that devotees do, offering respect when
yeah,
when
not
one
coming and even
person.
saying Hare Krishna to spiritual masters. I mean, that's really, really sad. I mean, I'm just trying to get some guidance how to deal with such situations as a program coordinator.
So in situations like that, I will say what my spiritual master Bhakti Maharaj has done in different situations that are, either controversial or, negative, and he had to address it. My assumption here is that if you went to him directly and then talked to him about it, he probably would get offended. Especially if his ego is up there, he might get offended by this. One of the things that you can do is, and this Bhakti Maharaj did, he would incorporate the things that he wants to talk about, the devotees need to be aware of, in his lecture. And he will, especially when it's an important point like that, so you make sure when that person comes that you talk about it, but you talk about it to everybody. Actually, it's beneficial for everybody to hear it. But you talk about it and send the message that way. You're not mentioning him by name directly, but you're mentioning the things that he needs to change. So then you talk about the etiquette that should be showed when everybody comes. It is, in fact, it shows, it affects the reputation of the whole Sangha, the devotees. And therefore, normally, this is what Srila Prabhupada has asked us to do. When a person comes, you do like this, you do like this. You tell everybody. So those who know, they'll hear it and say, I know it's true and I do it. And those who don't do it, they'll hear it. And when you're saying it, it means that it's important for them to also observe that. So the first step that I'll take is to while talking, bring that up to all the devotees. Maybe with your turn to preach, put that in there also. And that way, hopefully, he'll get it. Hare Krishna.
Thank
I
you,
don't know
Prabhu.
whether
I think,
somebody else,
yeah,
Hare Krishna, want to add some
thank
more
you. That
points.
was a very practical suggestion.
I would
Can
like
I?
to.
Yeah,
Yes, go
Mataji,
ahead
go
there,
ahead.
Krishna.
No, I had one more question, but you can go ahead first.
No, you just pricked something in me, Prabhu.
So
Okay.
hang on to the question. Hopefully you won't. Yeah. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
You just got me started. Let's put it that way. So because you mentioned that this person has been coming for some time, it's not like this person is a newcomer, right, Prabhu?
Correct. Absolutely
Yeah.
correct.
Said that.
So if it's a new person, we can expect them, because Prabhupada, even when he started, because I was just reading yesterday from I forgot which who posted it, but it's from Prabhupada. In the early, first year something in New York, devotees would come in shorts to the temple, and Prabhupada never corrected them. He would even cook for them. But if they had been coming for more than a year, Shri Prabhupada started teaching them even how to tie sari and this and that. But if this person is coming, Prabhu, this is another point that I remember for a while too, he says, yes. This is what my guru would tell us. One is the suggestion that Pariksit gave, add it into your class as a learning lesson, for them. Number two is, if we as leaders don't correct the situation right away, then we are also at fault. We cannot let it go. We cannot ignore it. So that's one thing he said. As leaders, we have to correct the situation, because if we don't, then we are also at fault. And thirdly, Prabhu, if I were you, like for me, if it's a devotee that's been coming for so long, I will humbly go up and tell them the right etiquette and what is and why. You know, like yesterday, I was reading a very powerful point by Bhakti Swami in Vaishnava etiquette. And he was explaining the term Vaishnava and etiquette. And he spent so much time with the word Vaishnava. He said a Vaishnava is one who's a follower of the Lord. But then he said to be a follower of Lord Vishnu, Lord Krishna, we
Mhm.
have to have faith and surrender and devotion. Only then can we imbibe the etiquette. So that really blew up. I mean, that was like, whoa for me. I've never
Mind
heard
blowing. Okay.
mind blowing. It really was, because I never thought of it that way. Because Bhakti Swami says, in order to follow the etiquette, we have to be a devotee of the Lord, a Vaishnava. But what does it mean to be a Vaishnava? As one who has that devotion to follow the etiquette. But to get that devotion, he said, we need surrender. But to get that surrender, we need the faith.
Mm.
It was very deep. It was very deep.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I think that sounds very logical, because I could see that if person doesn't have the faith in whatever we are doing in the program, or it's like, okay, why don't come, right? But don't disrespect, right? So
Yeah.
anyway, thank you, Mataji, for adding it, and definitely, hopefully, by Krishna's mercy, I should be able to address it somehow. But
Yeah.
yeah, definitely something that I needed some guidance, because it's a public program. You can't make the scene out of it, kind of thing. And our spiritual masters, they're never looking for, any any respect. But what are we teaching to ourselves, right? But when people are not following this.
And what are
Second
others
question.
also watching?
Right, right. So like a bad apple spoils the whole thing, and I can see it happening sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, Prabhu. Second question I have is, let me
Okay.
see if I okay. Yeah. So nice point, Prabhu. Like when a leader is doing something right, right things are happening, then nobody bothers or even gives the say anything. But when things doesn't go well for whatever reason, then leader has to
That's when
face
you
all.
hear about them.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So that's natural, and we should expect it if we are in any leadership service, and we can accept
Mhm.
it, try to learn to tolerate and have patience and all that. But in that case, from the other angle, how to know if as a leader or as a service given in the leadership, we are doing the right things? How to get that feedback?
If you're doing the right things,
Yeah, because
how to
nobody is
get
telling you, right? Yeah, so
if nobody is talking about things that, well, first of all, before we're going to get to the point, there is a set of do's and don'ts that's already been given by Srila Prabhupada and echoed several times by Srila Prabhupada's disciples, spiritual masters, Diksha Gurus, Shiksha Gurus, they all talk about that. So a leader should be conversant very, very well. I mean, they should understand those do's and don'ts well. And since we've already talked about this, that if you see that devotees are not, that they're comfortable, things have happened, well, and they didn't say anything to you, then you should assume in your own mind that things are going fairly okay. Now, if you want to find out what's not going right, you can also ask some of those that you can trust if there are some things that they're thinking of that could help improve, how things are done at the yatra. You can ask that. You should be concerned more about things that need to be fixed than things that are going well. You should be more concerned about things that need to be fixed, to be changed, improvement, rather than things that are going well. So you don't worry yourself too much about things that are going well. You need to be more concerned about things that need to be done properly. And of course, if the devotees, and some of them are like that, if the devotees are quite or some of them, the more the goodness, if they want to tell you some things that need to be done, they will put it as a suggestion. So listen to their suggestions also. In fact, there are some dams that the temple president has put a place, or has designated a place and a slot where if you want to anonymously suggest some things, you could actually write it out and put it in there, and then they'll read it, and especially so even the things that the devotee wants to talk about, but it may seem controversial, they have a place to even voice that out. So more leaders should be more concerned about things that need to be done properly. In those days, the days of your Maharaj, Yudhishthir, all of them had spies, but they had spies for a particular reason. The spies that go into the population and bring up different things and to just to hear what people will respond to, and then come tell the king. The king was not interested so much in the things that were going well, the praises. Yeah, they can bring back results of people talking about wonderful things that are happening. But the king will always be concerned, what is the negative things that people are feeling uncomfortable about, so that I can address that matter. So personally, I wouldn't worry too much about things going well, but more so things that need to be fixed in order to make people even more comfortable with being with the group, with the Sangha. Hare Krishna. And I know there are some more suggestions. I saw, did you want to
Thank you,
add
Prabhu. Thank you.
something? Hare Krishna. I know there's a chat thing, and I'll read that. Bhakti Vasudev Maharaj answered that question 2 Sundays ago at Berks Bhakti Yoga. This is Ansuya Mataji putting this point out. And Sarvanga Sundar Damodar Das said, I like the point, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. He said, okay, please accept my humble obeisances, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. I like the point to confirm our vows with seniors in spiritual life. Because when we take vows ourselves, we never know when we break the vow. Also, I remember the line, there is blessing and empowerment when we get approval from seniors about our vow. Please bless me. I continue keeping my vows. Thank you. Okay, so this is a nice connection to what we're talking about. He brought the whole thing about vows, because Maharaj Pariksit had made a vow that he was going to fast, and he brought it to the very high level devotees that were there at the time. So he's connecting it to his own. Yeah. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the assembly of devotees at any time. And all, blessings to you also. We all want to be successful in our spiritual life. And especially the person that wants us to be successful the most is none other than Sri Krishna himself. He wants us back home more than we want to go. So he wants to make sure we are successful. So he's done so much. He's come himself. He's talked about it in Bhagavad Gita. He's expressed how to live spiritual life by coming as Lord Chaitanya. And then his pure devotees have also come and they're preaching to this day. They're still preaching and distributing Srila Prabhupada's books. So Krishna has arranged all of this because he wants us back home, away from all the anxiety and all, one thing after another and the different bodies that we're getting in. So we have the opportunity, we should take advantage of it. Hare Krishna. Any other points?
I wanted to share this nice question by Dear Krishna Prabhu that I said that Bhakti Vasudeva Maharaj addressed, because
Yeah.
he addressed that question and the answer in 2 Sundays class at the temple, and also the same thing, interestingly, at Berks Bhakti Yoga program on Saturday night or Friday night. I don't remember. I'm sure the anyway. Maharaj said that he had a similar situation in one of his temples with his disciple. And one devotee came and asked him, Maharaj, how do I know if I am pleasing my spiritual master, if I'm growing in Krishna consciousness, if I'm, doing better. And Maharaj said, do you have a temple president in your temple or senior devotees? He says, yes. Then he says, you go to them and you ask them. And he says, but I ask them what? And he says, you ask them how you're doing spiritually in your service attitude, your Krishna consciousness, whatever. And then Maharaj said that if the senior devotee and the temple president is happy with the way you're growing, then know that your guru is also happy.
That's nice. Very nice.
That's what he
To put
said.
it that way. Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah.
So
Very
it goes
good.
back to the 6 loving exchanges, the last 2, where we ask in confidence and where we reveal the mind in confidence, and we ask submissively to the temple authorities and the senior devotee how we are doing spiritually, if we are listening, if we are imbibing, if we are following, if we are doing good. And based on that, then we know if the guru's happy.
Very important point to bring up. I'm glad you brought that up also, the connection from, how those who have been practicing for a longer time see the rest of us and how we are going on in spiritual life. Very, very, very important point.
And by the way, I want to also share that I also do get that. I go through that, even though my guru is not physically alive on the planet. But I always ask my seniors and my GBC all the time whenever I'm in conversation with them, and that's how I know. And because they tell me what I'm doing, right or wrong.
Mm.
And I just got that same thing from Bhaktivati Maharaj when he was here. So I do get feedback.
Very, very important. And the same with me. There are 2 devotees I go to and 1 spiritual master that I go to to get this. Even though our Diksha Guru is not actually physically on the earth now, but you get important information like that. So it's got to be somebody you have to share the progress with and questions with and so on. And take constructive criticism from them, suggestions on how to improve. Very important. Any last questions or any last takeaways that someone the devotees want to share with us? If not, then thank you very much for attending the class. Vanchakalpatarubhishcha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Have a nice weekend, nice Krishna conscious weekend. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. All glories
Hare
to the
Krishna.
Prabhupada.
Jai, God Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. God Srila Prabhupada.